with fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello, and welcome to the Percy-Verse podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Get into a phalanx formation and hold the line, because today we're reading Sea of Monsters, Chapter 3, Tyson Plays With Fire. In this chapter, Camp Half-Blood is under attack by two of Hephaestus's fire-breathing bronze creations. Clarice has assembled a team of 10 campers to defend the camp boundary line. Unfortunately, most of them are running around like chickens with their heads on fire. Percy has jumped in to help like a bull in a china shop, arguably causing more problems than he solves. Tyson saves Percy's butt from fire again. Percy remains completely delusional right up until the end of the chapter when he finally listens to Annabeth and sees that Tyson is a cyclops, and Talia's pine tree is dropping needles faster than the Grey Sisters' taxi speedometer.
Snaps for that chapter summary.
First chapter summary. Hopefully y'all like it. We're going to try to start including chapter summaries.
Yeah. The hold the line, I don't know if you get this reference because you never watched Game of Thrones, but it just made me think of hold the door. I don't know if
I don't think I know that one.
No.
I know that I know nothing Jon Snow, which is relevant to this moment.
Okay, well, to anyone out there who watched Game of Thrones and knows what I'm saying, hold the line made me think of hold the door, and then I got sad all over again. Well, we start this chapter off like not like mid-battle, but kind of as close to mid-battle as
in the thick of things.
Yes, like it's basically like the chapter starts and it's kind of like we get the lay of the land of these two bulls that are wreaking havoc on camp, and most terrifyingly so on the other side of Talia's pine tree,
Crossing
which they
that
shouldn't
boundary
be able
line.
Exactly, to cross that boundary line. That should be impossible, but in this present moment, it is not. They have crossed the boundary line. And per your excellent chapter summary, Percy and Annabeth are seeing Clarice with 10 campers trying to kind of fight off these two bulls the size of elephants. So they're
Which
massive.
is really big. Like, we're assuming this is full-grown elephants. That is too big. There are a lot of ominous things in this chapter. We're getting both in terms of what's literally happening in the chapter and also what's being referenced, and things that are telling us, like we talked about last time, like not all is well as Camp Half-Blood. Everything's not the same as we're used to it being. One question I have about the chapter title, I feel like this chapter title is almost more descriptive of the battle, the dodgeball battle, than this battle. Because I feel like Tyson blocks fire in this chapter, but he's not really playing with fire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess because, like, the bulls themselves are, like, full of fire, and he kind of makes one of them his, like, toy.
Right.
He just kind of, like, pounds into nothing. That it's,
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of
how I play with all of my toys.
Right. You pound them into oblivion.
Pound them into nothing. Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. Like, I think chapter titles are hard, but I feel like oftentimes these books have such, like, engaging, funny, or mysterious, like, chapter titles.
Yes, I think for me, it made me think of the expression of to play with fire.
Yes,
like
I was
to do
wondering if it was
something
a pun.
dangerous. And Tyson does, in Percy's eyes, do something incredibly dangerous, though it's not dangerous for Tyson to do. So I interpreted it more that way, like where it was more playing on the expression of to play with fire and do
I think that makes sense.
Do something incredibly dangerous. So yeah.
Yes. Which in Percy's eyes, that's what's happening. Percy's actually more the one playing with fire, I think, in that expression.
Yeah, absolutely. Percy
mess.
on his third near-death experience.
Yep.
Like, so far.
I like the part in the chapter where he's like raising Riptide and he's like, whoa, I haven't like worked out with the sword in a year. It's like, yeah, dude, like you might not always be the best person for the job. I think Percy's fatal flaw is on full display in this chapter.
And him kind of being, a like just barely teenager who kind of forgets like, oh, if I don't like work the muscles that are required to lift a sword, like a celestial bronze sword, it's gonna get hard. If it's been about 9 months, since I did this last.
Yes. But before we get to that, they've exited the taxi and the Grey sisters have just run fast in the other direction, not even getting their extra drachmas. Like, they are clearly assessing the situation and are not having any part of it.
No, none whatsoever. They're like, we see the danger and we're out. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Yep. And also, I like the specific note that Tyson and Percy, which makes sense, are still in their burned up tie-dyed gym clothes. Yes. So, like, another reason that it's very dangerous for Percy to just sort of dive in head first here is that he's one of the only people without any armor on at all. Yeah. And these bulls are literally basically made of armor and also breathing fire.
Yes. And I think it's such a great reminder of the fact that Tyson and Percy are still fresh off of battle number 1 of the day that like just happened maybe an hour or two ago, given like, allowing for time for they had to kind of meet up with Annabeth, and I don't know how long an extra fast like Grey Sisters taxi ride is, but it can only have been an hour, maybe 2 maximum, since
and they were going pretty fast
in the gym.
So it's probably less.
It's probably like an hour, maybe even like 45 minutes, like it has not been that long since they were in the heat of a life-threatening battle, and now they're in one again where fire is once more the like primary kind of
this book
mode
so
of
far
destruction.
Is all about singular eyes and fire.
Well,
dangerous
Cyclops.
Fire.
Hey.
So the themes are theming for sure.
Yes, they are absolutely theming. And and so Percy and Annabeth are kind of taking in the scene. They see the 2 massive bronze bulls. They see Clarice, and Clarice shouts like Border Patrol. So Percy notes like, wait, camp didn't have Border Patrol when I was here last.
That's new.
So it's there are many, many signs and pointing to how much camp has changed since the last time we were here. And we get this funny recap of like Percy and Ares and like the beef, and it's another one where I'm like, it's a wild understatement to call it a very serious disagreement that he had with Ares. I was like, that's underplaying.
Just a little bit. We like
you had a
I drew like godly blood.
But Percy and Annabeth can see that Clarice is in serious trouble. The other warriors, like, they're struggling. They do not have a handle on this situation. And Percy tells Tyson to stay, that he doesn't want, Tyson to take any more chances. And Annabeth is like, no, we need him. And Percy literally says, he's mortal. He got lucky with the dodgeballs. And it's just like, come on, my guy.
Oh, Lord, Percy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand how he is in such a level of denial, given everything he's been through before. Like, no mortal could do what Tyson did with the flaming dodgeballs against the cannibals. Like, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. And like, even we've talked about Percy's bias around Tyson and stuff. I'm like, even that doesn't feel like it should be strong enough to outweigh just the literal evidence in front of his face. But it is, and Percy is just choosing to not see what's right in front of his face.
No, well, and what's funny is like in this next interaction with Annabeth, where she's saying the like Medea's sunscreen that they need, and Percy's confused, and he has this thought where he's like, okay, I learned long ago not to question Annabeth too much, that
Yes.
she's right. And I'm like, but she just said we need Tyson.
Right,
And Percy,
right.
you questioned her and you were like, no, 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 no. He's
Yep.
immortal. It was just luck. Like, but then with the whole Medea's sunscreen thing, you're like, no, I may not get it, but I don't question Annabeth.
I trust Annabeth. Yeah. I mean, with Tyson coming into the battle, it was Annabeth's idea. That's a good idea.
Yes.
This is one of her good ideas. But I think, he says specifically, look, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to let Tyson get fried. And he raises his sword and he says, Tyson, stay back. I'm going in. And I just wrote, like, fatal flaw. Like, that is what's happening right now. And he is not assessing the situation, as far as we can tell, sufficiently. He's not making a plan with Annabeth. He's not listening to her about Tyson. Like,
No.
he is just like a one-man band, and he is not equipped for that. Like, he has a sword that he's struggling to lift. He has burn marks on his tie-dye clothes from the last battle, and he's just been in a very stressful taxi ride. Like, you are not prepared, my friend.
No, no, not at all. And I think, like, this the biggest thing for me in this chapter was just how much Percy's, like, not listening at all. He like won't, it's like his brain won't allow him to take in the information about
That's
Tyson.
why I said he's like a bull in a china shop. Like, he really is this, like, one-track mind. The in this case, the bulls are like the red flag for him.
Yeah.
And he's just charging ahead without a thought for anything else around him.
Yeah. And kind of forgetting that, like, it's been since last summer that you did any of this, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, if not for Tyson, you would be dead right now. Like,
already,
you're not the one who
fought
fought the cannibals. And Annabeth.
No.
Annabeth comes in with the final blow with Joe
They
Bob.
knocked
Like,
Tyson out.
yeah. You were not the hero.
No.
And you tried to be. And now we're just rinsing and repeating that. So this really is, we've talked about this, but this is a book to really kind of put Percy in his place and, like, showcase some of his struggles and, like, confront him with things that he's just not ready for, and seeing some of these flaws come up, as we all have flaws, and oftentimes seeing our own flaws is the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
But I think that in the second book, it is wise to put your hero through something like this so that he doesn't just skate through the story unscathed. But man, is Percy struggling right now.
Yes, he is. And as he's joining, Clarice is trying to get everybody into that phalanx formation, which I do love, especially with the hindsight of then, like, meeting the Roman camp. Like, I love kind of learning, like, those different styles of fighting and, like, how the Greeks fight versus how, like, the Romans fight. And, like, they have enough discipline to, like, they have a formation. Like, there is, structure, because the Romans are like, the Greeks are just,
they're just chaotic and undisciplined,
chaotic with everything. But I really enjoy like, learning those differences, and so when we get those types of things, like Clarice was yelling at them to get into phalanx formation, I'm like, oh, it's so fun.
I also like seeing Clarice, like, take charge like this and be a leader. And she is the daughter of the war god, and as much as Annabeth likes to differentiate around, like, strategy and bluster and stuff, I do think that the war element that involves tactics and strategy, like, Clarice knows how to lead people into battle and how to call a play, because Percy's even like, it would have been effective if everyone wasn't on fire, and that makes sense. I wanted to note that our bulls, just because we're tracking eyes, have fist-sized rubies for eyes, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, and they are made by Hephaestus himself, called, I'm realizing I forgot to look up how you pronounce this, Colchis? I don't know if it's
I was saying Colchis.
Colchis bulls is the name of them. So this is also our our kind of second run-in with Hephaestus made things causing problems.
Yeah, Hephaestus made things causing problems definitely is a theme of Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And I just wrote at the top of this page, page 41, we need Leo.
Yeah.
Like, we really need Leo right now. Luckily, we have Tyson in a little bit, but,
Yes.
you know, the bull is just opening its hinged mouth and a column of white hot flame is blasting out. And white hot is particularly hot as a color compared to like orange or something. And I also just thought as I wrote that it feels a little bit like linking Hephaestus with fire gives us actually a hint that I hadn't thought about before toward Leo later
Totally.
in Heroes of Olympus, because I hadn't necessarily remembered that we had this link of Hephaestus with fire so early on in the series.
Yeah. Well, and that also just makes me think of how like Tyson and Leo exist in this really fun Venn diagram of like incredible builders who are also fireproof
and fireproof mechanists.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, Leo definitely has a lot of Cyclops attributes.
Yeah. And as Clarice is like yelling at everyone to get in this formation, to kind of your earlier point about like Annabeth's like view of Ares, and this I feel like is kind of a really fun and interesting moment to see like Clarice and her like daughter of the god of war. I'm rallying the troops in the formation so we can attack. Annabeth also does a very smart strategy of she is taunting one of the bulls to distract the bull and have it chase her, and then once she gets its attention she puts on her invisibility cap and completely like confuses the bull, and so it's like totally thrown off and distracted from Clarice and the other group of campers. And so I think that's also such a fun way of seeing like how there can be different strategies and they can all work together and like benefit one another, and you can kind of be that person doing like the assist play, you know, in a
which I think
like
is like a really important distinction that's about to happen between how Annabeth assists and how Percy assists.
Yes.
Because Annabeth's assist is working with Clarice's strategy, trying to like pull some of the threat away from what Clarice is doing, which will make what Clarice is trying more effective. Whereas Percy decides to just kind of yell at Clarice and break her concentration in the middle of the fight. And I'm just like, this maybe wasn't working along with Clarice's plan as well as Annabeth's move here.
Well, and to your metaphor of Percy being a bit of a bull in a china shop here, like he just kind of runs in. He just like dives head first. Like he doesn't really take a strategic lay of the land all that much. Like he, like through his recounting, we know what Clarice is doing. We know what Annabeth is doing, but like Percy's not then being like, okay, what's the best way for me to assist here? He's like, I just gotta run in and hack whatever I can and like slash through whatever I can.
Well, and when Annabeth's distraction stops working, he doesn't think to maybe do the same distraction because he's now perfected the whole bull runs at me, I dive to the side move. Like he even just used that in the gymnasium to like open like a door wall like area. He just yells at Clarice, behind you, look out, when the bull becomes less interested in Annabeth. And I'm like, couldn't you have done the same thing, but just said like, hey, you know, thrown one of your classic insults at the bull and had the bull charge at you, and then
like, over here,
flame breath, you know, like something. And then maybe, you know, that would have contributed to Annabeth's strategy, but instead he doesn't contribute to Clarice's strategy. He doesn't join the Phalanx. He doesn't have a shield to do that anyway. He doesn't contribute to Annabeth's strategy. He just kind of runs in and starts yelling and completely distracts Clarice.
Yes, and then has to help her, like drag her out of the way from being basically bulldozed by the other
bulldoze.
Bulldoze.
Is that why that word is that word?
I mean, a bulldozer.
Whoa.
I guess
know, but does that originally come
from? Serving that purpose.
My mind is blown. It has to be. I never thought about that before. But this happens because bull number 1 crashes into her shield, breaking the phalanx. She comes flying backwards, and that bull number 2 is coming right at her, and Percy's pulling her out of the way. So he's really having to just clean up the chaos he created here.
Yeah, absolutely. And
which is never the most heroic place to be in, let me just say.
No, it's not. And in getting Clarice out of the way, the bull passes by him, and it doesn't even touch him, but Percy can feel how hot it is just from like having been near its presence. So we're also getting like, you can't even touch these things, like you cannot make physical contact with these
and
bulls.
Percy does manage to cut a huge gash on its flank with Riptide, but that's not really stopping the bull at this point from being a threat to everybody. And Clarice is just really upset, shall we say.
Yes.
Not happy to see Percy.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I don't even know how injured she must be from that bull. Like, gotta be a couple of like broken ribs. I'm like, to get crashed into something like that. Bruised ribs, at least. Like, she's
a bull the size of an elephant, made out of bronze and silver and fist-sized rubies. Like, that's a heavy, chunky, metallic object to come flying at you. That's gigantic.
Yeah, so it's a testament to her like strength and fortitude that she is able to then like later on in this fight, like that she gets up and she keeps fighting.
Yes, that she can even be mad at Percy, like be coherent is wild. Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
Also possibly a testament to the phalanx, like the way that the shock absorbed across everyone and disrupted the formation. But that's kind of one of the points of that formation, is to be able to bear the brunt of blows. So I feel like it's also good strategy, like we said, on her part.
Yeah. And it's in this moment when Percy kind of like basically just leaves Clarice at the pine tree, he realizes that not only are the bulls, he has another moment of like, the bulls are on the other side of the pine tree, but also we're now looking down the hill into Camp Half-Blood, and he's really processing like the danger that these fire-breathing bulls pose to the entirety of camp right now, because if they don't defeat them here at this hill, they can just go and burn all of camp down and put every single camper at risk.
Absolutely.
And so Annabeth is now kind of like taking over. Clarice is a little like kind of sidelined for a moment. And so Annabeth is shouting orders, trying to like get everybody together. And she is really sticking with this like keep the bulls distracted strategy.
Totally.
Like that's her, which it kind of makes sense. Like there's no way for them to manage two coming at them at once. So keeping them distracted, like, means that they pose a lesser risk rather than
and that keeps them, like Percy was just realizing, distracted from going into camp. Like, if you don't have enough people power together to be able to withstand the attack of one or two bulls, then dividing and conquering is a good next strategy, and distracting.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And then we get this really interesting moment where bull number 1 is kind of running in this wide arc, and it's making its way back to Percy, and we get this description where it says as this bull is passing the middle of the hill where the boundary should have been, it like slowed down as if it were struggling against a strong wind, but then it broke through and kept coming. So that is an interesting notch, like, okay, some amount of protective boundary exists, because like this bull had to struggle for a moment, but it was only like it was going up against strong wind and it breaks through. So it's still it's like, we're still incredibly worried about camp, but it is interesting to be like, okay, Talia's tree's not completely died. Like, the magical protective boundary still exists to some degree.
Well, and I think when we hear about the state that her tree is in at the end of the chapter, then we can kind of correlate that with the idea that the protection, the boundary is weaker, but not fully gone, just as the tree is clearly, dying, but not fully dead, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And bowl number 2 has fire sputtering from the gash, which is like now it's
Yeah.
coming out multiple sides
Right.
of this
Which
bowl.
basically just means that like the interior of these bowls is just
Is
fire.
fire. Yeah. I would be curious to know if it's like um how it's generated, if it's like just a straight
Yeah.
up magical fire, if there's something mechanical generating it, if there's a fuel source. I would be again, Leo would know, but I would be curious to find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ruby eyes are glaring, seem to be glaring at Percy. So the bull might have some feelings, is what I'm
Yes.
hearing here.
It remembered who slashed. So who made that slash. Yes, yes.
Yep, coming after Percy.
Uh-huh. And Percy does take on bowl number 2. He like lunges to
Yep.
get out of the way, but then his foot catches on something he thinks like a tree root, and while he
Yeah.
manages to still slash with his sword and take off part of the bull's snout, and it's like galloping away very disoriented, his ankle is sprained or broken or something because he tries
Yeah.
to stand and he can't even stand on it, which
Not great.
is no, really not good. So like he's incapacitated. We don't really have kind of a check on Clarice quite yet on
Yep,
how
neither
she's
bull has been
doing.
taken down because he's
No.
very ambitious. He's like, okay, I have to deal with bull number 2 and cut off its head, and then I'll go for bull number 1. And I'm just like, Percy, like 10 other campers in full armor
Yeah.
have not been able to do this working together. We're like, when we talk about hubris, I feel like this is an example of Percy having hubris, like the idea that is
Absolutely.
a plan that even could work, because it's one
Yeah.
of the first times where he's like thinking ahead about a plan instead of just rushing in, and it's not it's about as realistic as thinking Tyson is mortal. Like it's just not in the realm of reality.
No, no. And in kind of proving this point, bull number 1 is charging directly at Percy, and Percy's screwed. Like he can't even crawl out of like he can't do anything to get himself
He's
out
down
of the
for
way.
the count.
And so Annabeth is like, all right, it's time to bring in Tyson.
Yep.
But Tyson is yelling that he can't get through. So that's also like a little, if you as the reader are like, wait, what's kind of up with Tyson? You kind of know like,
Totally.
wait, he can't get through. There's this thing with the barrier keeping monsters out, you
Yep.
know, like, um,
Well, and it's interesting. It makes me wonder if, because the bulls are so big, if like the boundary line works better the smaller you are. I know Tyson's still pretty big. Like he's a pretty tall guy, and
well,
he's a
we
cyclops.
get Annabeth's explanation. She says it's because Tyson's a baby.
Sure.
And
But
so
I'm
it's
just thinking the bulls are able to push through that sort of wind seeming
Sure.
thing. And so I'm wondering if as you scale down monster wise,
Sure.
does it become harder to push through the weakening boundary? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, that does. Like, it's both physical size. There's maybe a correlation with both physical size and also, like, even though Tyson is, like, bigger than all the other campers, because he's still a baby in regards to, like, a full-grown Cyclops. It's like he also doesn't have the full, like, strength
Totally.
in and of
Like
himself.
a full grown cyclops
to-
could
yeah, to, like, push
probably
through.
get through like the bull. Yeah.
Yes. So then we hear for the first time how someone gives permission for someone to enter camp who
Yes.
does not
Which
have
is
it.
really interesting.
Yes, because
Given what Luke was up to.
Annabeth says, I, Annabeth Chase, give you permission to enter camp. And thunder shakes the whole hillside. And then
Yeah.
suddenly Tyson's there and he's like ready to help. But it's interesting to learn like a camper can do it. So then what you were saying, like back to book 1, Luke could do this on his own. It's not like, the authority only rests with Chiron. Campers
Right.
can do it themselves.
But it does make you wonder, because I associate thunder booming with Zeus, watching Camp Half-Blood live stream, like we've been talking about in the first book. And if Luke had to give permission, I guess one other interesting thing is, like, is there a time that thunder rolled toward the end of the Lightning Thief that meant that was the time Luke was giving permission? Because that would be kind of fun. And
Oh,
two,
sure.
like, could we identify when we think that happened?
Yeah.
And two, like, wouldn't that mean that Zeus would know that Luke did this, and that would further sort of develop the whole plot idea that Percy laid out for him.
I know, yeah, it is interesting. I was trying to remember back to the explanation we get when we're first at camp in the Lightning Thief about like monsters only are in the forest, like unless campers want to play tricks on each other. And so I don't
see.
know.
So maybe it falls under that because it was in the forest, in the woods.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if it maybe kind of gets a pass because of that.
That's a good point. Rather than
and
crossing a boundary,
right.
like Annabeth's letting Tyson. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. But also the thunder, like, I mean, this shakes the whole hillside, so it's different, but it also made me think of like the vows on the river Styx and like the way that thunder
Right.
reacts to them. And I
Right.
don't know, somehow my brain was kind of connecting the idea of that with this like magical boundary, like this kind of like promise to protect this place, and like basically
Sure.
being like, I'm allowing someone to enter who Tyson obviously is only going to help protect camp, but you know, who is like
Right.
bound to be maintained on the outside.
Who's in this
like,
category of being that we don't
Yes.
let come into camp.
yeah. And Tyson comes basically in the nick of time because
Yes.
all Percy can yell is Tyson as Tyson dives between Percy and the bull just as it unleashes what Percy describes as a nuclear firestorm. And this description is wild. It says the blast whirled around him, being Tyson, like a red tornado, and all Percy can see is the black silhouette of his body. So like he can't really make it's like seeing a shadow.
Yeah,
in
not even
just
like
a
features.
tornado. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of a fire. But the fire goes out and Tyson's there completely unarmed, and not even his clothes are scorched, which I made note of, is like Percy with the water.
Totally.
Like Percy's clothes don't get wet. Tyson, which kind of makes sense if you're Cyclops and you're having to work in the forges, like having that same ability, so you're not just either basically always naked or having to
Right.
put on new clothes like every 5 minutes.
It is really interesting to have the sort of contrast of a son of Poseidon also being immune to fire.
Yeah.
Like that they have these two like fire and water, you know, components playing at the same time that
Totally.
could feel contradictory. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then aren't there also like forges in the sea? It's this very interesting, almost kind of like conundrum of like how can there be a forge, you know, like at the bottom of the ocean.
It makes me think of like underwater volcano kind of vibe. Like
Totally,
there are maybe very
yeah,
limited
yeah.
places on Earth where the two would happen
Yeah.
simultaneously, but it feels like elementally interesting to have
Yes,
both of them
absolutely.
interplaying.
Yeah. And then this is when Tyson just kind of lets loose on this bull
Yep.
and just like
Let's go,
crumples it.
Tyson.
Like he makes a crater where the snout used to be.
Yeah.
He hits it again and it crumples like aluminum foil. And Tyson just basically single-handedly takes out one of the bulls. And
While yelling, which I love.
yes,
Bad cow.
I know.
I love Tyson.
Yeah, he's the best. And while Annabeth is like checking on Percy and giving him nectar, which is like helping him feel better, we then turn to see that Clarice has taken care of bull number 2, fully impaled it, and
Even
now
after
it's just
everything
kind of,
she's been through, it's kind of incredible.
I know. Yes, to me this feels like we're really seeing like what a true like child of the god of war is like capable of doing, like in their element, which is like a battle, like how much strength they can muster and like what they're capable of doing when they're in their element like that.
Well, and I was just thinking, I think this will hold up for the rest of the book, but I feel like this book is an example of basically a story told from the perspective of a not main character. Like, I feel like Clarice is actually the main character of this book.
Totally.
Like,
Yes.
she's actually
Yes.
going through her hero's arc in the way that Percy did in the last book. Like, even if we start here, she's been dealing with all the stuff at camp. She's leading
Yep.
this battle. Percy
Yes.
comes in and messes things up. She defeats the bull. She's going to be the one to go on the
Yep.
quest. Like, she's going to face, off with her dad. Like, there's all these
Yeah.
things in which, like, this is really Clarice's story, but we're just
Yes.
getting it from Percy's perspective. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's really unusual in a
Yes.
book.
Well, and I think it's part of like putting Percy on the back foot and humbling
sure.
him and making him deal with all of that is really making him not be the protagonist kind of
Yeah.
of the story, which that did all of a sudden make me really want like it, how Stephanie Meyer did Twilight.
I was just
from
thinking
Edward's
that, yes,
perspective.
we
I
need
want to see
Clarice.
monsters from Clarice's point of
Yes.
view, like this story, but from entirely her perspective, so we can follow who really is the main
Yeah.
character of what's happening.
No, I was literally thinking it would be so interesting to read this from her perspective and like
Yeah.
get into her head around this whole book, because she is dealing with so many things, both like physically but also emotionally through the book.
Yes. Yeah, this is a really heavy book for Clarice emotionally.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and after taking care of Bad Cow number 2, now called Bad Cow, I think in honor of Tyson,
Yes.
yelling Bad Cow.
Bad cow number 2.
She's still fully energized, marches over to Percy and just yells at him, so angry, being like, you ruin everything, like just so mad at Percy.
Yes.
And she continues to be mad, but Annabeth kind of redirects her to be like, hey, you've got wounded campers. And that kind of gets her into like, okay, I'm the commander, I'm the leader of this, I need to go take care of my people, and so I'm going to go do that and stop yelling at you, Percy, right now.
Which
'cause
again,
it's not
like,
the right moment.
good leadership moment for Clarice. Like, a different person would have let their personal anger get in the way of caring for others, but she doesn't do that.
No?
And she goes to assess the damage, and then Percy stares at Tyson and says, "You didn't die." And I'm just like, oh my god, Percy.
I know. But this is when we finally get, it's like we have like this breathing moment because the bulls have been defeated and we don't know yet how serious everything is at camp. And so we finally have this moment where Annabeth basically forces Percy to realize.
To look at Tyson.
Yes.
But first, real quick, I think that the language here is really important as we're tracking the Percy-Tyson dynamic through the book.
Yes, absolutely.
Tyson saves Percy's life and then apologizes.
Yep.
He says, "I'm sorry, came to help, disobeyed you." So in this dynamic, it's not just like Percy has this somewhat subconscious sort of paternalistic view toward Tyson. Tyson is also picking up on that to where he thinks he's supposed to be obeying Percy, which is a really big power dynamic.
And like, because like Percy literally like orders him to stay, before diving into the fight. And yeah, that language of disobeyed you and not like, I don't know, some other, like, it is, it's very particular wording that I agree is very important.
Very important. And then even Annabeth is like, "It's my fault. I had no choice. I had to let Tyson cross the line to save you. Otherwise, he would have died," which is true.
Yeah.
And then that wording Percy picks up on is like, why would Annabeth have to let Tyson?
Yes.
And that's where she finally says, "Percy, have you ever looked at Tyson closely? I mean, in the face. Ignore the mist and really look at him." And that's where Percy talks about how even demigods can be, fooled by the mist. And he finally sees that Tyson does not have two eyes to look into, but one eye. And we get the description, which I've always loved, and it feels very like tender to read.
But before, to your point about like the important wording, because I really love that description. But before we get to that, I want to point out that when Annabeth forces Percy to do that, the way that it's worded when Percy finally does is, I looked Tyson in the face. It wasn't easy. I'd always had trouble looking directly at him, though I'd never quite understood why. And I thought it was just because he'd always had peanut butter in his crooked teeth. But I forced myself to focus at his big lumpy nose and a little higher at his eyes. Not eyes, one eye. But that, like, it made me think back to the episode where we were talking about, like, our own personal experiences. And in general, how I think, like, in our reality, like, if you see someone who's homeless, like, on the street, how people oftentimes, like, their first instinct is to not look and to, like, not visually, like, engage with that reality. That this feels like that's another way in which Percy isn't, like, fully engaging with, like, the reality of Tyson and not actually ever looking at him directly. Like, they've been friends for a whole school year and he's never actually looked directly at Tyson, you know, like, never actually taken the entirety of him in. He's always looked at, like, I guess basically, like, chin and below, you know.
Well, and I think it's both what we've talked about before, which is that parallel, I think, with homelessness and, like, not looking at people in the eyes. And whenever he does describe what he sees on Tyson's face, he's always doing it in a way that is, like, negative about differences. Like, I think it also speaks to how, like, because homeless people aren't the only people that you often would avert your eyes toward. I think anyone with, like, bodily differences or even disabilities, like, can oftentimes have that similar experience of people averting their eyes. And I think that kind of combines here as we hear Percy describe Tyson's features that he has looked at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point.
So yes, he's trying to look at these eyes. Then he realizes it's not plural. It's one eye. And it's one large calf brown eye right in the middle of his forehead with thick lashes. And in this case, as is often the case with Tyson, I feel like, big tears trickling down his cheeks on either side. And I'm just
so sweet.
Tyson. Like, he's just, like, the sweetest.
The description of a large calf brown eye.
I always love that description.
It's so sweet. And, like you were saying, it's, like, so tender and it's so lovely. And it just, like, it makes me just want to give Tyson a big hug.
I know. Also, like, when Percy's describing his face, he's not describing tears before he looks up at the eye. And I think it's also, like, that's a good example of when you won't look at someone, when it's like a way of dehumanizing, but it also is a way of avoiding emotion and emotional connection. And here it's like, once he looks at the eye, he's able to then connect with the fact that Tyson is actually crying right now.
And Percy kind of stammers and can't really fully say it, and so Annabeth finishes the sentence of you or and Annabeth adds Cyclops. And this is when we get her addition of Tyson looks like he's probably a baby, and that's why he couldn't get past the boundary line in the way that the bulls were easily able to. And this is also where we get the kind of explanation. She says Tyson's one of the homeless orphans, and Percy's very confused by that. And she explains that basically, like, Cyclopses like Tyson are in almost all of the big cities, and she says this very distastefully. And then this is where we get to some language again. Annabeth is not like, great. Yeah,
in front of Tyson, who is currently actively crying. Yeah, Annabeth proceeds to be very rude in describing Cyclopes.
Yes, and she says that they're mistakes, Percy, children of nature, spirits, and gods. Well, one god in particular, Poseidon, but, you know,
she's not revealed that yet.
And she says, and they don't always come out right. No one wants them. They get tossed aside. And it's like, it's cruel. Like,
it's so cruel.
The language
is probably one of the cruelest things Annabeth says in the whole series, I would say.
In front of Tyson, who's literally like less than a foot away, like standing right there. Like, literally right there. And she's
very much like he has no feelings.
Yeah, or like he can't even hear her or understand her or know what she's saying. Like, it's,
And mind you, Tyson just saved Percy's life
Yes.
Like, he just saved Percy's life, and then what we get from both Percy and Annabeth are essentially rude descriptions of him.
Yeah.
It is
wild.
wild.
Something that they often do is talk about Tyson like he's not there, which really makes me think of like how it's easy for like adults to do that with like toddlers or real little kids, is like talk about the really little kid like they're not there, you know, and like not allowing like the child to speak for themselves. And it feels like they're treating Tyson in that same way, like we are the like thinking people, and you, like, we're just going to talk about you, like you're not here, really right here, and we're going to talk for you. Like, Percy has been talking for Tyson basically the entire time, and like not really allowing Tyson to like make a decision, say anything for himself,
help if he wants to, speak for himself. And Annabeth has this preconception about Tyson's age or developmental age, but you know, Percy created that for himself just based on his interactions with Tyson. Like, he doesn't even have the sense that Tyson's a baby anything. No, it is also interesting. We've compared Tyson to Grover a few times in the first few chapters, and that's another example where like Grover, in his case, you know, you think that he's younger than he actually is, and he develops differently. And so I think Tyson having this, like, he's so tall, though only a few inches taller than Annabeth, and then, you know, he's developmentally a lot younger. It's another parallel between them.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, and Annabeth in that paragraph talks about Tyson, calling him this one. Like, it's just, it's really awful. It's really bad. It's like, Annabeth, look, I love you, girl, but like, this is not a good moment. Like,
nope. This is not a good look for you. This is one of your worst moments, I would say, in speaking about anyone in the entire series. We have some work to do with both of them. We have some work to do with both Annabeth and Percy, and you know what? That's what books are for, is for us to grow. And it's like, you know, life is our book. We gotta grow through the pages of our own lives. So Percy is like, but the fire, like, he's trying to focus on like, okay, sure, I get what you're saying, but what about the fire? And Annabeth explains that Cyclopes work in the forges. Again, we're not explaining where and what gods and things like that, you know, which gods they might work for. They have to be immune to fire. And Percy says, I was completely shocked. How had I never realized what Tyson was? And I was like, same, Percy, same. Like, this is what I've been thinking the whole book so far, so I'm glad you caught up.
Right.
Oh, Percy.
Yeah. But then we're kind of brought back to the like urgency of the present moment, the fact that like a whole side of the hill is burning and there are wounded heroes who need attention, and Percy's like, okay, basically we can't stay, like, I'm shocked and I'm floored and I'm processing, but we can't stay in this moment for too long because there are other things that very much need our attention. And they still have to like dispose of the bulls, you know, like the bulls didn't like disappear into dust.
That's like a funny little side comment when Percy's like, I figured they wouldn't fit into our normal recycling bins.
Which is like, okay, I guess they, you know, but for the satyrs, I'm sure they're recycling, they're composting, they're, you know, everything. But it's like funny to think about.
Once they cool down enough, would they be like grilled metal for the satyrs? Like, would they be tasty or would they be too thick to eat?
Well, I was thinking like the Hephaestus kids would want to use it to craft some stuff. You know, pieces like
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you chomp on that? That's my question. And would it taste smoky?
Right. And Clarice comes over and is basically like, if you can stand up, we gotta go. We need to carry the wounded back. And then she says, we need to let Tantalus know what's happened. And Percy's like, and who now? And what now?
Yes.
And Clarice very impatiently is like, Tantalus, the activities director. And Percy's just like, Chiron's the activities director.
I know. He's just like, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're incorrect.
I haven't been here, but you're wrong.
Right? I know. And he's also
Hi.
like, and where's Argus? Like, he should be here. And Clarice makes a sour face and
Yeah.
says that Argus got fired and that Percy and Annabeth have been gone for too long, that things are
Yep.
changing. Um, and Percy's like
He
really
can't let
thrown
it
by
go.
Chiron.
Yeah. He's really stuck on that one.
He's like recounting Chiron's resume. He's like,
Yeah.
he's trained kids to fight monsters for over 3,000 years. Like,
He can't
as if
just be
Clarice
gone.
is like the one who made this call, as if like she,
Yeah, or as if she doesn't know that. Like, she hasn't
right?
known Chiron longer than Percy.
I know.
Wild.
But he asks what happened, and Clarice snaps and says that happened, pointing to Talia's tree. And
Yep.
we get this lovely summary of
Little recap,
Talia's
because we didn't finish
tree.
recapping quite everything in the last chapter. Like, we need to be
No.
sprinkling in our recaps for
Yes.
the
So
second book.
we get the recap of in case you forgot what happened and how Talia's tree came to be.
Last time in the lightning thief.
Yes. But then we get the description of what the pine tree looks like now. And
Yes.
now its needles are yellow. There's a huge pile of dead ones littered at the base of the tree. And in the center of the trunk, 3 feet from the ground, was a puncture mark the size of a bullet hole, oozing green sap, and this is when Percy now understands why camp is in danger, and
Yes.
and that the magical borders are failing because Talia's tree is dying, and specifically someone poisoned it.
Dun, dun, dun. So this was another cliffhanger ending,
Yes.
like our last one, which was kind of exciting. And, you know, when we recap the story of like Annabeth and Luke and Grover and Talia coming to camp, I think that also like hopefully reinforces for the reader, this is not just a tree that protects camp. Like, this is a demigod, child of Zeus, that got turned into a tree. Like, her spirit or essence or something, which we'll find out later, is in this tree. And so if this tree is poisoned and dying, it's not just a tree, it's not just the camp borders, it's not just a safety issue, it's potentially like a murder of a girl, of a very important demigod. And it's a really big deal.
It is. And I think it's such a great setup, I think, for then the like giant twist of an ending to this book, because like I remember the first time reading this book and like I was just worried about like, oh no, the tree and like the camp and the borders, and so they have to go on this quest so that they can like, you know, reinvigorate the borders and like reprotect camp. Like in no part of my brain did it occur to me that like Talia could then come back.
Like she could get too healed.
Yes.
Yeah. Same.
And I think it's so great because it's like we're getting the reminder of Talia's in this tree. Talia's in this tree, but like not in a way that makes you go, oh, so she's gonna pop out of the tree.
Right. Talia's out of this tree. What?
Yeah. Because all of the storytelling is like she made her final stand.
Yes.
And in her last moments, like it's all told. Because
it's always like, Zeus took pity on her, and I'm always like, ugh.
Yes. Yeah. Or it's his own child.
Yeah.
But it's always told in this way where, you know, everyone's understanding of what happened is that she passed essentially, you know, and is like,
totally.
And just kind of got transformed into this tree, and like Talia as the human no longer exists. And so, I think it's great because it's like, and it's still so fun to read every time. Like every time I read this book, I'm not like, okay, I'm just waiting for when Talia's gonna like pop out. I'm equally as invested every time I reread the book.
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the ways in which it's such an effective strategy. It feels such like a chess move that Kronos does here. Because in order to solve this problem, you're actually creating the next problem. Not that Talia being alive is a problem, but like he's trying to get more pieces on the board to manipulate, you know? And so I think that it's a very, very effective distraction because camp is the heart. Like
Yeah.
it's the home, it's the hearth, it's the thing to attack until we get to actually attacking Olympus, down the
Yeah.
line. This is sort of like that first strike that is
Yeah.
gonna, come at camp, and then there will be more. And so I think it's a very, very effective distraction to keep everybody busy, focused on a threat without necessarily, like you said, realizing the turnabout that could happen.
Yeah.
So that is, I think I enjoy a clever villain. Like I enjoy when characters are up against someone who's not just sort of like a faceless, nameless, throws a bunch of monsters at you, big bad, but someone who's like employing strategy. And especially if like you don't see it, it's really satisfying as a reader. And then to watch your characters have to grow into creating strategy. Because I mean, we're talking about 12-year-olds being up against like a immortal, almost primordial being. Like they're not going to be 10 steps ahead of Kronos right now. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so to kind of put that into play as his cleverness coming in, I think it's great. And it's a different strategy than he employed in book 1 as well. So it's cool to see like diverse strategies being used by the villain too.
Yeah, well, and still, like, all things that, like, because even in book 1, he was, like, sowing kind of worry within camp with, like, the Hellhound, and how did that happen? And it's kind of like he's, like, ramping up to Labyrinth, and, like, having a full-out, like, battle. Like, before then, the final, giant battle on Olympus that happens in the final book. But the other thing that all made me think about was the fact that, like, even despite how like smart Kronos is as a villain throughout all of these books and how he makes such great plays, he also interpreted, if you knew the Great Prophecy, I don't know if we do, but invested too much into believing that it was about a child of the big three and not Luke. Because if he had just focused in on getting Luke 100% on his side, it would have worked.
True.
Like, he would have won. But it's because enough of, like, the Luke that loved Annabeth and Talia and Camp and hadn't been won over, like, enough of that Luke still remained, that's what defeated Kronos in the end.
Which is, I think, based on the cycle of heroic stories, you would expect a Talia or a Percy to be the one to defeat, in a more direct way, the big bad. And I don't think that Kronos or other villains like Kronos also think that heroes can take a back seat or can, like in this case, Percy can't. Like he is, if he was in the same headspace in the final battle as he was in this battle, Kronos would have won as well. Yeah. And I think relying on heroes not growing and changing and having that hubris is part of the strategy for someone like Kronos too, and works for a long time.
It does, and because in that way heroes can be kind of like the gods in that they don't grow and they don't change, and they just have a whole lot of hubris about what they can do.
And I mean, hubris literally means like trying to think that you're like a god, right? So I think that I don't know what the word for gods having that, because I feel like in these books I'm gonna be like titanness,
right, or like primordialness.
We need to look up the root of hubris. But anyway, I do think that the gods have it in spades, obviously, because they're often not right or underestimating others, especially mortals or especially demigods. But yes, that I think will be a theme that we continue to sort of disentangle throughout all of the rest of the series. But for now, any other themes or final thoughts on this? Also rather short, and rather focused on one topic. Chapter, similar to our last one. And chaotic, similar to our last one.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, very high energy. It kind of is a pedal to the metal, like, chapter from start to finish, like the taxi ride was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that kind of covers all of my thoughts about it. I think I'm just feeling excited now to get into it. Feels like a similar point in The Lightning Thief where we're like about to get into like the meat of what the
Yes.
quest could be and what's going to happen. Like I'm excited to get into all of that, and especially like I am really excited to be able to really sit with like not just Percy's journey but like Clarissa's journey, and just
Yes.
there's so much meat on the bone of this book, I feel like. And so
Me
I'm just
too.
really excited to be getting into all of that. Like, you know, this is where like they learn their fatal flaws. Like
I
there's just so
know.
much that we will
We get
be
to
able to
take to
dive
see.
into in the Sea of Monsters.
I'm really excited to read this maybe for the first time, thinking of it from Clarissa's perspective. Like,
Yeah.
imagining that this book is written with her as the protagonist, and kind of tracing that arc in a new and different way. I'm curious to do that this time around.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from you?
I'm glad to be at camp. That's that's we don't get to be here too long, obviously,
No.
but even though things are different, like I think that feeling of like we've arrived at camp, like that.
Yeah.
I often read books as like escapism, and I enjoyed when we would arrive at the place that like was home for those characters. And so you know, there may be some different things and some hard things, and then we'll be off on our quest, but I'm excited to be at camp.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you all next time when we read Sea of Monsters, Chapter 5, I Get a New Cabin Mate. Bye.
Bye.